The U.S. fleet advanced slowly toward the Strait of Hormuz, a vital artery of global oil flow now turned into a deadly choke point. Their mission was clear: reopen the passage and restore the movement of tankers. But the moment they approached the narrow waters, the reality of the battlefield became impossible to ignore. Iranian forces had transformed the strait into a hidden minefield. Beneath the calm surface, dozens, perhaps hundreds, of advanced naval mines waited silently. Unlike the crude floating explosives of past wars, these devices were nearly invisible. Some rested on the seabed, others hovered at calculated depths, all armed with intelligent sensors. Magnetic triggers could detect the distortion caused by a ship's steel hull. Acoustic systems listened for engine vibrations. Pressure sensors measured the displacement of water as massive vessels passed overhead. Many of these mines required multiple conditions to activate, making them both precise and unpredictable. A ship wouldn't need to touch them. One wrong move and the explosion would come from below, sudden, devastating, unavoidable. Clearing this path would not just be difficult, it would be one of the most dangerous operations of the entire mission. The fleet immediately shifted into a slow, deliberate formation. Speed was no longer an advantage. It was a risk. Every ship reduced movement to a crawl, engines humming at minimal power. Sonar systems activated across the fleet, sweeping the dark waters below with constant pulses. Mine detection arrays scanned every meter ahead, searching for anything that didn't belong. Above the surface, helicopters lifted off from the carrier deck one after another. They fanned out across the strait in tight, controlled patterns. From the open doors, gunners leaned into their mounted weapons, eyes locked on the horizon. Every shadow in the sky could be a drone. Every ripple on the water could hide a threat. Some helicopters dragged specialized sonar sleds beneath them, long cables cutting through the water, mapping the seabed in real time. And data streamed back to the fleet's command center, where operators tracked every anomaly, every suspicious signal. Inside the ships, tension tightened. Lookouts rotated constantly, binoculars scanning the distance. Anti-air systems remained locked and ready, tracking for incoming missiles or Iranian Shahed drones that could strike at any moment. Because right now the fleet was exposed, slow, focused, vulnerable, and Iran knew it. This wasn't just a clearance mission anymore. It was a race against an unseen enemy, both above and below the water. When the sonar teams flagged a suspicious object, the operation shifted instantly. This was no longer a job for machines alone. Below deck, the explosive ordnance disposal team moved with calm precision. The divers suited up in silence, wetsuits sealed, oxygen systems checked, dive computers calibrated. Every piece of gear was inspected twice. There was no room for error. Moments later, they climbed into rigid inflatable boats and sped away from the main vessel, heading toward the marked coordinates. The further they moved from the fleet, the more isolated they became, just a small team against an invisible threat beneath the surface. When they reached the site, the divers didn't hesitate. They slipped into the water. Cold darkness swallowed them instantly. Descending slowly, guided only by faint beams of light and sonar coordinates, they approached the seabed. Visibility was poor. Shapes blurred into shadows. Every movement had to be controlled, every step deliberate. Then, they saw it. A naval mine, lodged deep within a coral formation, partially buried, perfectly hidden. It was positioned in a way that made it even more dangerous, too tight for drones to approach safely, too unstable for direct handling. The divers moved closer, scanning every detail. They confirmed the type, the condition, the trigger mechanisms. Then they reported back to the ship through underwater comms. The decision came quickly: do not disarm. It was too risky. Instead, they marked the location and began their ascent, leaving the silent threat behind, but not for long. Back on the ship, the operation entered its most precise phase. There would be no second chances. A remotely operated disposal vehicle was prepared, small, compact, and built for one purpose: destroy what humans could not safely touch. The crew lowered it into the water, its camera feed instantly appearing across multiple screens in the operations room. Every eye locked onto the display. The commanding officer, the EOD team leader, the sonar operators, all watching the same live feed. The drone descended slowly, navigating through the dark water toward the marked position. The outline of the mine appeared on screen, still, silent, waiting. Carefully, the operator guided the vehicle closer. Every movement was deliberate, every adjustment minimal. Then, with surgical precision, the device placed an explosive charge beside the mine. For a moment, everything paused. Confirmation came through, charge in position. The vehicle backed away, retreating to a safe distance. The tension in the room tightened. No one spoke. Then, detonation. A muted explosion rippled through the water. On the surface, a violent column of foam and debris burst upward before collapsing back into the sea. On the monitors, the mine was gone, erased. The sonar team confirmed it seconds later. The path, at least for now, was clear. Even as the mine was destroyed, no one relaxed. Because the danger hadn't ended. It had only shifted. On the lower decks, ammunition handlers moved fast, hauling heavy crates upward. Inside, belts of rounds for the deck-mounted machine guns. The crates were opened, inspected, and carried topside with urgency. Above deck, gunners took their positions. The ammunition belts were fed into the weapons, locked in place with sharp metallic clicks. Each gun was charged, the sound echoing across the ship like a warning. Then, short bursts fired into the open sea. Test shots, controlled, precise. The weapons roared briefly, confirming they were ready. These guns weren't just for defense. They were the last line of protection. They could tear through incoming drones in seconds, or detonate floating mines from a safe distance before they drifted too close to the fleet. Around them, the entire formation remained on edge. Radars scanned non-stop. Missile systems tracked invisible threats. Eyes watched the sky and the water. Because at any moment, everything could change. A drone strike, a missile launch, or another hidden mine waiting beneath the surface. The fleet moved forward, but every meter was earned, and every second could be their last. The fleet pushed forward, deeper into the Strait of Hormuz. Behind them, the destroyed mine marked progress. Ahead of them, uncertainty remained. The waterway narrowed, forcing the formation tighter. Every ship now sailed within a confined corridor. No room for sudden maneuvers, no space for mistakes. The towering steel hulls moved in silence, cutting through waters that could erupt at any moment. Above, helicopters continued their patrols, engines echoing across the strait like a constant warning. Below, sonar pulses never stopped. Every signal was analyzed, every shadow questioned. Inside the command center, tension reached its peak. Multiple screens flickered with live data, radar sweeps, sonar maps, drone feeds. Officers tracked every movement, every possibility. The air felt heavy, charged with anticipation. And because this was the most dangerous moment of all. Not the beginning, not the explosion, but the stretch in between, where nothing had happened yet, and everything could. Then, a new contact appeared on the screen, unidentified, moving, fast. Silence filled the room. All eyes locked onto the signal. The mission was far from over. It was just getting started. The alarm shattered the silence. Incoming contact, multiple signatures. Within seconds, the entire fleet snapped into action. Radar screens lit up as more signals appeared, fast, low, and approaching from multiple directions. The pattern was unmistakable. Drone swarm. Iranian Shahed drones flying low over the water to avoid early detection were now closing in on the fleet. Engage all defensive systems! Missile batteries rotated instantly, locking targets. Close-in weapon systems powered up, their barrels spinning to life. On deck, gunners tightened their grip, eyes tracking the sky. Then, the first explosion. A missile streaked upward, tearing through the air before detonating one of the incoming drones in a flash of fire. But more followed, dozens of them. The sky filled with movement. Helicopters veered into combat positions. Dr. Gunners opening fire. Streams of tracer rounds cut across the air, chasing fast-moving shadows. Some drones spiraled out of control, crashing into the sea. Others kept coming, closer, faster. The fleet responded with everything it had. Machine guns roared, missiles launched in rapid succession, defense systems tracked, fired, reloaded, again and again. One drone broke through the outer defense line. It screamed toward the formation. "Target inbound, close range!" A deck gun opened fire, rounds tearing through the air. Impact. The drone exploded just meters above the water, the shockwave rippling across the surface. Fragments rained down, but there was no time to breathe. More were still coming. This wasn't a probe. It was a full test of the fleet's defenses, and it had only just begun. The drone swarm was only the beginning. Moments after the last wave was intercepted, a new warning cut through the chaos. Ballistic launch detected. Every system on the fleet shifted instantly. This was no longer a drone attack. This was escalation. High above, beyond visual range, Iranian ballistic missiles were already in flight, descending fast, targeting the narrow corridor where the fleet had little room to maneuver. "Track all incoming, prepare intercept." Advanced radar systems locked onto multiple trajectories. The data streamed across command screens, speed, altitude, impact predictions. Seconds felt like minutes. Then, fire! Interceptor missiles launched in rapid succession, streaking upward to meet the incoming threats. The sky lit up as explosions erupted at high altitude. Each detonation a desperate attempt to neutralize the falling warheads. One missile was destroyed, then another, but not all. "Leak through! One incoming!" The warning came too late. A single missile broke past the defense net, plunging toward the fleet at terrifying speed. "Brace for impact!" Time slowed. Then, a final interceptor launched. It climbed hard, adjusting mid-flight, locking onto the descending target. Direct hit. A blinding explosion tore across the sky, shockwaves rolling over the fleet seconds later. The remaining debris burned out before reaching the water. Silence followed. Brief, fragile. Inside the command center, no one spoke. They all understood what just happened. This was no longer a defensive operation. This was war. The order came without hesitation. "Authorize counterstrike." Inside the carrier's command center, the atmosphere shifted from defense to retaliation. Coordinates were locked, targets confirmed, missile sites, drone launch facilities, coastal radar stations, all marked. "All units, execute." Far beneath the surface, unseen and silent, a U.S. submarine adjusted its position. Within seconds, its vertical launch system ignited. Tomahawk cruise missiles erupted from the ocean. They broke the surface in a violent burst of spray, then curved into the sky, engines roaring to life as they accelerated toward the Iranian coastline. At the same time, on the carrier deck, F/A-18 Super Hornets launched one after another, engines screaming, afterburners blazing. They shot into the sky in tight formation. It's climbing fast before splitting into strike groups. Each jet carried precision-guided munitions, designed to hit hard, fast, and without warning. High above, beyond radar range, a shadow moved, a B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. Invisible to most detection systems, it had already entered strike position. Its bomb bay doors opened silently, releasing payloads toward hardened targets deep inland. Back on the fleet, everyone watched the screens. Missiles closing in, jets approaching targets, impact countdown ticking. Then, first strike confirmed. A missile site vanished in a fireball. Then another. Radar installations went dark. Launch platforms were destroyed before they could fire again. Coastal defenses collapsed one by one under the coordinated assault. The balance had shifted. What began as a mission to clear a path had turned into a full-scale offensive. And this time, the fleet wasn't waiting to be attacked. They were bringing the war to the enemy. The explosions faded, but the tension remained. Across the Strait of Hormuz, smoke still rose from distant impact zones. The sea, once filled with hidden threats, now carried the echoes of battle. Burning debris, shattered drones, fragments of what had just unfolded. The fleet held its position, engines steady, weapons still armed. No one assumed it was over. Inside the command center, reports came in one after another. Multiple targets neutralized. Enemy radar coverage significantly reduced. No new launches detected. For now. That was the word that lingered. Because everyone understood the truth. This wasn't the end. It was a pause. Above the fleet, helicopters continued their patrols, scanning the horizon as the first light of dawn began to break. The narrow strait slowly revealed itself again, calm on the surface, but forever changed beneath. The cleared path was finally open. Oil tankers could move again. The mission, on paper, was complete, but the cost and the consequences were only beginning to unfold. Far away, new orders were already being drafted, new targets being selected, new battles taking shape. Because once a line like this is crossed, there is no going back.